The Minister of Finance and Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. Timothy Harris, told the National Assembly that the government has a plan for economic recovery in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic. Presenting his address on the Appropriation 2021 Bill of 2020, Prime Minister Harris indicated that the impact of COVID-19 is likely to cause a 22% reduction in government's revenue by the end of 2020. According to the Minister of Finance, emphasis will now be placed on economic recovery in the 2021 fiscal year, but warned that the debt-to-GDP ratio will climb above the international standard of 60%.
We have devised a fiscal strategy for the medium term that has three main objectives. Firstly, we must stabilize the fiscal outcomes by containing and reprioritizing the recurrent expenditure. Secondly, we must facilitate recovery and reignite the economy by adopting a pro-growth approach to the development of our capital budget for 2021 and beyond. And that is why, even in the face of reduced flows, we are proposing to spend about $192 million in capital projects to keep the economy up and growing. The third objective of our fiscal strategy, Mr. Speaker, is that we must manage and maintain the public sector debt at prudent levels. We have been doing very well in this regard. Indeed, until the COVID-19 pandemic, we were the best in the OECS. As at the end of December 2019, our debt-to-GDP ratio stood at 55%. Moving forward, Mr. Speaker, for 2021, in the context of the urgent need to stave off the recession, to engage in additional financing to support some of our projects, Mr. Speaker, we are expecting to see an increase in the debt-to-GDP ratio. But importantly, we have set ourselves within the medium term to restore it back again to the 60% debt-to-GDP ratio.
He disclosed that the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic will also result in a need for the government to borrow in 2021.
It is likely that the potential impact of the pandemic would require the government to borrow in order for us to achieve our development objectives for 2021 and for the short-medium term. The contracting of new debt, coupled with the general downturn in the economic activity around the world, and here in St. Kitts and Nevis, we spent time discussing that, would likely result in the debt-to-GDP ratio rising to about 69.7% in 2020, then declining in 2021 to 65.4%, and then back to 60% in 2023. So we have a plan that will get us there. This is an emergency. This is more than an emergency. This is a pandemic. And the wisdom is that we must spend quickly rather than go to it in a peaceful way. We must spend now, because the quicker we get ourselves out of the recession, the better it will be. And then, once we borrow, we must be in a position to pay. And we will not undertake any debt. Indeed, the lenders will be foolhardy if they were to engage in lending without assurances of repayment.
The $867.9 million 2021 budget saw expectedly high allocations in several ministries, including those of the Prime Minister's Office, the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Health, as well as the Ministry of Education. Glenn Batt, SKN Newsline.